How are we, guys? We're out here at Frankston at another job. This is an old customer of mine. We're going to be doing a little bit of hedging today. These trees behind you, once upon a time, they were just normal looking trees, all bushy and everything. Probably about 5 years ago or so, I met this customer. I seen the trees, she just wanted them trimmed, and I asked her if she would mind if I shaped them up a little bit. I was quite interested to see what I could do with these things. Because it's been, 5 years now, you can see that they're really quite thick now. So they've grown in a fair bit. When I first did it, they really did not look pretty at all. This is a job that, as I said, it's an old client now, but I love doing this job. So I let her know I'd do this one free of charge, just because, why not? It's good content. So basically we're gonna go around, show you guys how I would quote this job and how I do the job. So just before we start this episode, I just wanted to touch on a few little things. I've done a few episodes now, and we've had some really good feedback, but we've also had a few people that have given us quite poor feedback, which is fine. I understand that not everyone's going to like it, but I do just think there's a certain way that you go about giving feedback. Constructive feedback is probably the best way, instead of getting quite aggressive and saying comments that you probably don't mean at the time, but it makes you feel better at the time for something that you don't like that I'm doing. For those of you that know, anyone that's watched the Lawn Stars podcast with Gary Ashton, the Aussie Lawns podcast, you would know that when I was a lawn mowing contractor, I had a rough patch where I went through a little bit of depression and had some mental health issues. I think it's crucial that we look after each other and get our mental health right, because at the end of the day, we are doing this alone a lot of the time, and we're stuck with our own thoughts a little bit. So just quickly, I just wanted to say thank you to, first of all, Gary Ashton from Aussie Lawn Stars for reaching out to me and supporting me and making sure that I was all right. I wanted to say thank you to BJ Wallace and also Ben from Lawn Care Skull Sessions for reaching out as well, giving me a call, and also talking about on their podcast as well, and supporting me with these videos. It was really nice, the things that you guys had to say, and also just making sure that I was all right with my mental health. And I also want to say a big shout out to Tim the Lawnmower Man. You had actually done a private message to me as well to tell me that you thought I was doing a pretty good job. And you said to obviously to just keep pushing through and to ignore the haters. So a big shout out to those three people, because I think you guys obviously know how important it is to make sure that your mental health is right. And so it's people like you that are obviously helping out this industry and helping support contractors like myself. I also wanted to say thank you to a bunch of the members on the LMCA page, so Lawn Mowing Contractors Australia Facebook page. There was quite a fair few supportive messages that I had as well. So I do want to say thank you to those people. The reason I'm doing it is purely just to help out lawn mowing contractors and give back to you guys, and hopefully I can leave a bit of a footprint with you guys to go, hey, I did actually help you guys out, and I did add a little bit to the industry. So keeping that in mind, we'll get into the job, and I'll show you guys how I operate. So I'm just going to quickly talk about how I usually quote jobs. Now, these hedges here really aren't too bad, and the formulas that I use are usually for hedges that have a bit more thickness or a bit more growth on them. But what my formula is it's built off the idea of $7.50 per square metre. With trim to neaten for your hedges, you're looking at $7.50 per square metre. That's how I figure out, or at least get a bit of an idea of what the quote should be. To give you a bit of an idea, we've got this hedge here. Now I've stepped around it, just step by step, roughly 1 metre steps. It doesn't have to be perfect. And what I figured is this hedge here has a circumference of about 8 metres. It's about 2 metres high on the sides, so you've got about 16 metres there, and it's probably got about, I don't know, let's say two square metres at the top or so. So you come up with a conclusion of the side is going to be about 120 bucks to trim. The top of it's going to be about 15 bucks. So this hedge here is worth about 135 to me. As I said, there's not really too much growth on it. Usually they are a little bit worse than this, but that'll give you a bit of an idea. We'll go to the next one. So you've got this little guy here. Around it, you've probably got about 3 metres worth of hedging or so. It's roughly about a metre tall or so. You've got about a metre on the top that you're going to do as well. So looking at this little guy, you'd probably be looking at about $30 for him. Now you got this hedge here. So you've got about 1.5 metres or so, roughly, about 2 metres on the top. And the circumference of it is roughly about 5.5, maybe 6 metres. For me, I'd probably price it around 80 bucks. We've got another little guy over here. So this one still needs to get a fair bit more growth happening with it. it doesn't grow anywhere near as fast because it's not getting the same sunlight that the others are getting. So he is only small. You've probably got about a metre and a half or so on the sides. Again, we're going to trim up the bottom a little bit, so roughly about a metre and a half. You've got about a metre on the top. The circumference of it is probably only 4 metres or so. So looking at this guy, you're probably going to charge it about $50 for it. And then we've got this one here. So this one is a similar size to the one just over here that we did. We'll trim up the bottom. You're going to be looking at about a metre and a half, maybe a little bit more. You've got about 2 metres on the top, and around the sides you've got about 6 metres again. So again, this hedge here would probably also be about $80, maybe 85 or so. So that's how I usually quote. So for this job here, it's probably going to be about $375 if I were to quote it as a normal job. And so that's sort of how I figure out my quoting with hedges. And it's just straight $7.50 per square metre, which is how I do it. There's plenty of other formulas out there that you could possibly use. This is my one. It's always worked pretty well for me. You're gonna want to charge a bit more for hedges, because after you finish doing hedging jobs, you're gonna have really sore shoulders, you're gonna have a sore back, you're gonna be a little bit stuffed for the next day of work. So you've got to have those things in mind as well. There is a bit of risk to it. You're going to be on ladders, you're going to be using a hedger. Not everyone knows how to do it. You've got to have the eye for detail. So there is a fair bit that goes into hedging. Now, while I'm trimming this hedge, what you'll find is I always trim from bottom to top. I don't go from top to bottom, because otherwise what will happen is you'll think that you're cutting straight, and really you're bending the leaves back, you're pushing them in, and you're not, and because you're pushing them in, the hedger is going to cut parts of the branch further in than what you'd expected. So you always end up having a really wonky sort of curve in your hedge if you're trimming from top to bottom. But if you're trimming from bottom to top, you don't have that issue with the resistance of the hedge where it naturally grows up to reach the sun. Basically, it always stays straight. I also do the sides first and then I do the top after, quite simply because when you're trimming the top and you're flicking things off, there's going to be bits of branches and that get stuck in the sides and sort of get caught in it. So if you trim the sides first and then do the top after, nothing gets caught anywhere, it all comes off nice and cleanly. So I've trimmed up the side a bit. Now I'm going to go around and fix up any parts that I miss. It's never going to be perfect on the very first shot, so I'm going to go around, anything sticking out that I can sort of see. It's really not too bad, but there's little bits and pieces sticking out here and there that I don't really like, so I'm just going to knock them off with the hedger or even the snips. All right, so we've gone around twice now. We've made sure we've cleaned up any of the little parts sticking out. You would have seen I was standing back a little bit. I was just trying to make sure it's all nice and straight on the sides. I always come back, take a good look at it from a view, and then get back into it. So I'm pretty happy with the sides now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and trim the sides of the rest of the trees as well, get them all done. So I've just got the side of one of them left to go. So I just thought I'd give you guys a quick idea. When you're hedging, you want it to be nice and crisp and firm after you've finished trimming the hedge. So obviously when you first do it, it's going to be all floppy, leaves, bowing down and all the rest of it. And what you want to do is have plenty of leaf still available to attract the sun, but you want to have the leaves start to grow from the inside to start thickening up the hedge a bit more. So that's the idea here. So you can sort of see that there's a bit more room for sunlight to get in there and actually penetrate the tree to grow more of the leaves from the inside, so that we can have a much thicker, healthier hedge at the end of it. So as I said, 5 years ago I started doing this. It wasn't looking anywhere close to what they're looking like now. They're still not thick enough. You can see through this one quite clearly. So we do want them much thicker. It will take a little bit of time, but we are slowly getting there.